J'ai entendu votre question, vous avez parlé d'un déploiement.
I think there's a great deal of confusion, and we need to calm tensions. I heard your question, you mentioned a deployment. There's never been any question of a French or Franco-British deployment.
Iran's stern Hormuz warning dramatically shakes Paris as Macron scrambles desperately to cool dangerous waterway tensions. France abruptly flips aggressive Hormuz rhetoric after Iran threatens certain immediate response to foreign warships. Macron hastily retreats from military force posturing mere hours after receiving Iran's sharp sovereignty warning. Macron aggressively pushes calm narrative after Iran explicitly warns foreign warships face zero-tolerance policy. Did Iran's Hormuz position send European naval deployment plans into complete operational disarray? Iran has warned of a decisive response against any European naval deployment in the Strait of Hormuz, framing such moves as a direct challenge to its regional role. On May 10th, Tehran declared that it alone holds responsibility for security in the waterway, arguing that it has primary authority as a coastal state over the strategically vital choke point. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Gharibabadi warned that any foreign naval presence in the Strait of Hormuz would trigger an immediate response, signaling that European deployments would be treated as a hostile act. Kazem Gharibabadi said, and I quote, "Whether in times of war or peace, only the Islamic Republic of Iran can establish security in this strait and will not allow any country to interfere in such matters. Any deployment and stationing of extra-regional destroyers around the Strait of Hormuz, under the pretext of protecting shipping, is nothing but an escalation of the crisis, the militarization of a vital waterway, and an attempt to cover up the true root of insecurity in the region. The Strait of Hormuz is not the common property of extra-regional powers. It is a sensitive waterway adjacent to coastal states. The exercise of Iran's sovereignty over this strait and the establishment of its legal frameworks fall within Iran's rights as a coastal state." Unquote. The warning came after reports that France and the United Kingdom were preparing naval deployments around the Strait of Hormuz, including positioning assets closer to the Gulf and the southern Red Sea. Gharibabadi claimed that France was set to deploy the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle toward the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, describing it as part of a broader Western attempt to project power into the region. As per Tehran, the real source of insecurity in the Gulf is the use of force and threats against coastal states, rather than the absence of European naval units. Tehran insisted that enforcing its own regulations and exercising sovereignty in the Strait of Hormuz is within its legal rights under international maritime law, rejecting foreign-led security missions in the area. Amid rising tensions, French President Emmanuel Macron attempted to soften concerns over direct confrontation with Iran, seeking to frame France's role as purely defensive. Macron said France never considered a direct military deployment into the Strait of Hormuz itself, arguing that European forces would operate in adjacent waters rather than alongside U.S. warships inside the choke point. However, Macron added that Paris remained prepared to adjust its posture if conditions in the waterways change, keeping the possibility of a more robust naval presence on the table. Macron instead promoted what he described as a coordinated maritime security mission, emphasizing that it would be led by France and the UK but open to other partners. The French president made these remarks during a press conference in Nairobi, Kenya, on May 10th, as part of a broader effort to position Europe as a stabilizing force in the Gulf.
J'ai entendu votre question, vous avez parlé d'un déploiement.
On Iran, I think there's a great deal of confusion, and we need to calm tensions. I heard your question, you mentioned a deployment. There's never been any question of a French or Franco-British deployment. A few days ago, I made the decision to move the Charles de Gaulle, the frigates accompanying it, and the entirety of our carrier strike group beyond the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, shifting from the eastern Mediterranean to the Nabai area. But there's never been any question of a deployment. We are, however, remaining ready. From the very beginning, we have said one very simple thing: freedom of navigation, to put an end to any blockade, wherever it comes from and whatever form it takes, to reject any tolls, wherever they come from, and to ensure freedom of navigation. We have never considered, and I invite you to review all my statements since day one, carrying out a deployment to reopen Hormuz by force. That has never been France's option. We have built an ad hoc mission, co-led with the British, bringing together 50 countries and international organizations in order to work in coordination with Iran, while deconflicting with all the countries of the region and the United States, to ensure that, as soon as conditions allow, maritime traffic can resume, including the transport of fertilizers, food, gas, oil, and goods. I call on everyone for calm and responsibility. I think there has been far too much verbal escalation, which always leads to physical escalation. And the world's most vulnerable people are the first victims of this. But today, we are all victims of what is happening. Our fellow citizens in France are also paying the price every day for this war that we did not want. So today, return to calm, prioritize a peaceful and coordinated reopening of Hormuz, and the resumption of responsible discussions on nuclear and ballistic issues within an appropriate framework. France is here to provide solutions in a respectful manner and within the framework of international law.
Iran warned that any new attack would be met with surprising new warfare, signaling that it is preparing unconventional responses for future confrontations. Army spokesman Brigadier General Amir Reza Akraminia said Tehran is working on new types of warfare, hinting at evolving tactics and capabilities without giving technical details. He added that future conflicts may expand into new domains beyond what Iran's adversaries currently expect, suggesting operations could go beyond traditional land, air, and sea battles. Akraminia claimed Iran could catch its adversaries off guard in future battles, implying surprise methods or weapons could be used if hostilities resume. He also warned that countries backing sanctions on Iran may face difficulties crossing the Strait of Hormuz, underlining Tehran's leverage over this key choke point for global oil shipments.
Today as well, we warn the enemy that if they once again resort to aggression and once again become afflicted with a miscalculation, in the way that they were in the past and now in fact are enduring and paying for the price of those past mistakes, if the enemy once again becomes afflicted with a miscalculation and resorts to aggression against our country, they will certainly face other surprising options. These options, in addition to being the determination and will of our colleagues and comrades in the armed forces, will be more advanced equipment and renewed and new methods of war. And perhaps most importantly of all, new arenas of war. Meaning that the war will enter an arena that the enemy did not predict. The enemy did not achieve any of their predetermined objectives. They were defeated in this war. Why? Because fundamentally modern wars are analyzed based on the degree of achievement of objectives. Which side in the war was victorious and which side was defeated, although now in many places it is also analyzed relatively, and perhaps one cannot speak absolutely, but whether absolutely or relatively, if we examine it, considering that the enemy did not reach any of its predetermined objectives, it faced decisive defeat and failure.
These comments came as Iran's navy confirmed the deployment of light submarines inside the Strait of Hormuz, describing them as part of its frontline deterrent. Navy Chief Rear Admiral Shahram Irani said the submarines are on standby for missions based on assessed threat levels, and can be activated as tensions rise. He disclosed that the subs were used during an operation launched in response to the attack on the Iranian warship Iristina in and around the Hormuz approaches. According to Irani, the submarines carried out formation maneuvers during that mission and then submerged again to continue their patrol and surveillance tasks. Irani's remarks came just days after U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth publicly dismissed reports that Iran possesses kamikaze dolphins, an allegation that has circulated in Western media coverage of the Hormuz standoff.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have kamikaze dolphins, but I can confirm they don't. Ultimately, any follow-on effort, if there are mines identified, would be something that some of our units could undertake or the world could undertake. But right now, we know we have a lane of safe passage that commercial shipping can flow through.